Right now, there's a woman in your life who can't stop thinking about you. And the crazy part? You probably think she doesn't even like you. But here's what most men never realize. When a woman is genuinely obsessed with someone, she doesn't show it the way you'd expect. In fact, she often does the exact opposite. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot the difference between real disinterest and a woman who's completely consumed by thoughts of you. Here's a statement that might shock you. According to research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, women are significantly more likely than men to hide their romantic interest, especially when they feel vulnerable or uncertain about rejection. And here's where it gets really interesting. The stronger her feelings, the harder she works to conceal them. So that woman who barely looks at you, the one who seems cold or indifferent, she might be fighting an internal battle you know absolutely nothing about. As a woman myself, I'm about to let you in on something that most guys completely miss. And I'm not just going to give you generic advice here. I'm going to break down the specific psychological patterns, the behavioral tells, and the hidden signals that reveal when a woman is mentally preoccupied with you, even when her actions suggest otherwise. But here's the thing you need to understand before we go any further. This isn't about wishful thinking or convincing yourself that every woman secretly wants you. Not at all. This is about recognizing genuine indicators that most men are completely blind to. And trust me, once you see these patterns, you cannot unsee them. There's one particular sign that I'm going to share with you toward the end that's so counterintuitive, so backwards from what you'd expect, that it changes everything. It's the signal that reveals she's not just thinking about you occasionally, she's thinking about you constantly. And it looks nothing like attraction. So stay with me through every single point, because they build on each other in a way that will completely transform how you read women. She remembers what you forget. Here's the first major sign, and it's one that flies completely under the radar for most men. She remembers tiny, insignificant details about you. I'm talking about things you mentioned once, weeks ago in passing, that you probably don't even remember saying. You told her your dog's name is Max during a random conversation 3 months ago. Now she asks, "How's Max doing?" You mentioned your sister's birthday is in April. She texts you, "Hope your sister had a great birthday on the exact right day." And here's why this matters so much. The human brain is selective about what it stores in long-term memory. We simply cannot remember everything we hear. So what makes certain information stick? According to cognitive psychology research, we prioritize information connected to things or people we care about. Our brains literally filter the world based on what matters to us emotionally. So when she remembers that you prefer iced coffee over hot coffee, or that you had a job interview last Tuesday, or that you mentioned feeling stressed about a family situation months ago, that's not her having a photographic memory. That's her brain categorizing you as someone important. Let me give you a real scenario to make this crystal clear. A friend of mine, let's call him David, was completely convinced this woman at his gym had zero interest in him. She was always polite, but never flirty. Never gave him those obvious signals he was looking for. One day, David mentioned he was training for a half marathon. Just casual gym conversation. 2 months later, completely out of nowhere, she asked him how his race went. He'd never mentioned the date. He'd never told her which marathon. She had looked it up. She had marked it in her mind. She was paying attention at a level that goes way beyond casual friendliness. And here's what David almost missed. She still wasn't being flirty. She still wasn't giving obvious signals. But she was thinking about him enough to track his life without being asked. This is the first crack in the wall. This is the first indication that something deeper is happening in her mind. She acts differently around you than everyone else. Now, this one requires you to pay attention to something most men never even think to observe: how she behaves with other people versus how she behaves with you. And here's the twist. The difference might not be that she's warmer with you. It might be that she's more awkward, more reserved, more guarded. And this actually signals more, not less. Let me explain the psychology behind this. When we're around people we have no emotional investment in, we're relaxed, we're ourselves. There's no internal pressure. But when we're around someone we're attracted to, someone we're thinking about constantly, our nervous system activates. We become hyper-aware of ourselves. We monitor our words. We second-guess our actions. So watch how she interacts with your friends versus how she interacts with you. Is she more playful and carefree with them? Does she seem slightly more tense or self-conscious with you? That's not disinterest. That's hyper-awareness. That's her brain going into overdrive because you matter. Here's a study that backs this up. Research from the University of Texas found that people are more likely to exhibit signs of anxiety, like self-touching, fidgeting, and speech disruptions, when interacting with someone they find attractive compared to someone they see as just a friend. So that woman who seems totally comfortable cracking jokes with your buddy but gets weirdly quiet around you, don't mistake that for her preferring him. She's just not emotionally activated by him the way she is by you. And here's a specific thing to watch for: the behavioral inconsistency. One moment she's warm, the next she pulls back. One day she initiates conversation, the next day she barely acknowledges you. This hot and cold pattern frustrates most men. But from a woman's perspective, I can tell you exactly what it often means. She's fighting herself. She's attracted to you but afraid of showing it too obviously. So she gets close, feels vulnerable, and then retreats to protect herself. The push and pull isn't a game, it's an internal conflict she's trying to manage, and you're the center of it. She notices everything about you. Here's sign number 3, and this one is honestly hard to fake. She notices changes in you that other people completely miss. And not just big changes, small, subtle shifts that require consistent attention to detect. You got a slightly different haircut. She mentions it before anyone else does. You're wearing a new shirt. She comments on it. You seem tired today. She asks if you slept okay. You've been quieter than usual. She picks up on it. Now think about this from a logical standpoint. In order to notice that something has changed about someone, you have to have been paying attention to how they were before. You have to have a mental baseline. You have to have been observing closely enough to detect deviation from the norm. We don't do this for people we're indifferent to. We just don't. Our brains don't invest that kind of processing power into people who don't register as significant. So when she notices that slight difference, when she picks up on your mood, your energy, your appearance, what she's really revealing is that she has been watching you, studying you, building a mental model of who you are. And most men have no idea this is happening because they're waiting for her to be obvious about her interest. Meanwhile, she knows more about your patterns than you realize, and she's been cataloging this information without ever letting on. Let me give you something to test this. Change something small about yourself and see if she notices. A different watch, a new way of styling your hair, a subtle shift in your energy. If she picks up on it, especially if she comments on it before others do, that's not coincidence. That's surveillance. That's a woman who has been paying attention to you on a level she hasn't admitted, even to herself. She asks about you when you're not around. This is one of the most telling signs, but it requires you to have mutual friends or connections who can actually report back to you. If a woman is constantly thinking about you, she will find ways to bring your name into conversations with other people. She won't necessarily make it obvious. She's not going to say, "So tell me everything about him." But she'll slip you into discussions in ways that seem casual, but are actually strategic. "Oh, is he coming to the party on Saturday? Did he mention anything about that job he was applying for? I think he said he likes that band too, right?" She's gathering intel without directly asking you. And this serves two purposes from a psychological standpoint. First, it feeds her need for information about you without making her feel vulnerable. Second, it allows her to assess the situation. Is he seeing someone? What's his deal? Before deciding whether to make any moves. Here's where your friends become valuable sources of truth. If someone mentions that she's been asking about you, asking about your relationship status, asking about your plans, pay attention to that, because women who don't care don't ask. Simple as that. And here's a bonus tell. If she remembers information about you that you never told her directly, information she could only have gotten from someone else, that's confirmation she's been investigating. That means your name has been on her mind enough to prompt actual research. Strong reactions reveal strong feelings. Okay, here's where we get into the counterintuitive territory I promised you earlier. Most men think that if a woman likes them, she'll be nice to them. Sweet, agreeable, warm. And yes, sometimes that's true. But here's what men often don't realize. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. When a woman truly doesn't care about you, she doesn't waste energy on you. She's neutral, pleasant, maybe, but ultimately unmoved. She doesn't get frustrated by you. She doesn't get annoyed by you. She doesn't feel anything strong because you don't occupy space in her mind. But when she has strong negative reactions to you, when she seems irritated by things you do, when she gets visibly annoyed or overly critical, that emotional charge often signals exactly what you'd least expect, that you've gotten under her skin in a way she can't shake. There's actually research supporting this. Studies on emotional ambivalence show that intense negative emotions toward someone often coexist with suppressed positive feelings. It's the classic, I hate how much I think about you dynamic. So that woman who rolls her eyes at your jokes, who seems weirdly bothered by your presence, who acts like you annoy her, before you write her off, consider this. You're clearly affecting her, and indifferent people don't get affected. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that all negative reactions signal attraction. Some women genuinely don't like you, and that's valid. But the key difference is in the intensity. Genuine dislike usually presents as avoidance. She just doesn't engage. But when she's constantly reacting to you, even negatively, that's evidence you're living rent-free in her mind. She finds reasons to be near you. Humans are remarkably simple creatures when it comes to attraction. We move toward what we want. And when a woman is constantly thinking about you, she will find excuses, often very subtle ones, to be in your physical space. She doesn't necessarily approach you directly. That would be too obvious. Instead, she engineers situations where you end up in the same place. She joins conversations you're part of. She sits near you in group settings. She shows up at events or locations she knows you'll be. And here's the thing, she might not even consciously realize she's doing this. Attraction operates on subconscious levels. Her brain is driving her toward you without her fully recognizing the pattern. Pay attention to frequency. How often do you happen to run into her? How many coincidences can pile up before they stop being coincidences? There's a concept in psychology called the mere exposure effect. It basically states that the more we're exposed to something or someone, the more positively we tend to view them. Some women intuitively understand this. They know that being around you more increases their chances, so they manufacture exposure opportunities. And here's a subtle version of this to watch for: the lingering. When a conversation ends, does she walk away immediately, or does she seem to hesitate? Does she find small reasons to extend the interaction? Does she ask just one more question to keep you engaged for another minute? That reluctance to leave your presence, that's not nothing. That's someone who doesn't want the moment to end because moments with you occupy a special category in her mind. She's watching without interacting. Here's a modern-day phenomenon that deserves its own section. In the age of social media, you'd think that a woman who likes you would interact with your posts. Likes, comments, maybe some direct messages. And sometimes that happens. But there's another pattern that's equally telling, and it's the exact opposite. She watches everything you post, but never engages publicly. She views every single story. She knows what you've been up to based on your content. She's seen your photos, read your updates, followed your life through the screen. But her fingerprints are nowhere visible. No likes, no comments, radio silence. Why? Because interacting leaves a trail. It shows interest. And for a woman who's conflicted about her feelings, or worried about seeming too eager, staying invisible feels safer. She gets to keep tabs on you without risking exposure. This is actually more common than you'd think. I've talked to countless women who admit to essentially stalking someone's social media while deliberately never interacting. They're trying to maintain plausible deniability. Oh, I didn't even notice your post. Meanwhile, they've watched your story 17 times. So if you have any way of checking who views your content, stories for instance, and you see her name consistently showing up despite no public engagement, that's significant. She's watching. She cares about what you're doing. She just doesn't want you to know she cares. She pulls away because she feels too much. And now we arrive at the sign I teased at the beginning, the one that's so counterintuitive. It changes your entire perception. Sometimes, when a woman suddenly pulls back, becomes distant, cold, unavailable, it's not because she's lost interest. It's because she's overwhelmed by how much interest she has. Let me explain the psychology here, because this is critical. Vulnerability is terrifying. When you start to develop strong feelings for someone, you become exposed. You've handed them power they didn't ask for, the power to hurt you, reject you, disappoint you. And for many women, the instinct to self-protect kicks in hard. So what do? They create distance. They stop texting first. They become harder to reach. They seem colder than before. And the man on the receiving end thinks, oh, she's clearly lost interest. I should move on. But what's actually happening is that she's scared. Scared of how much she's thinking about him, scared of how he's started to matter, scared that if she keeps getting closer, she'll be in too deep to protect herself from potential pain. This is especially true for women who've been hurt before. The closer they get to someone new, the more their past wounds start sounding alarms. So, they retreat. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. If a woman who was previously warm and engaged suddenly goes cold without any clear reason, no fight, no incident, no explanation, consider that she might be running from her own feelings. And ironically, that running confirms that her feelings are significant enough to scare her. Watch how she reacts when other women are around. This is a reliable indicator that requires specific circumstances to observe. But when it shows up, it's unmistakable. When you're talking to another woman, especially one who's attractive, how does she respond? Does her demeanor shift? Does she suddenly seem more alert? Does she move closer? Does she try to interject into the conversation? Or does she withdraw entirely, becoming quiet and closed off? Both responses signal the same thing. You matter enough for her to feel threatened by competition. Jealousy is an emotion reserved for people and things we feel possessive over. We don't get jealous about people we're indifferent to. It's not possible. So if you notice any change in her behavior when other women are in the picture, that's her protective instincts activating. And here's a subtle version of this. She might ask you about other women in a way that seems casual but is actually loaded. So, are you seeing anyone? What's the deal with you and that girl from the party? She's trying to assess her competition, which only makes sense if she sees herself as a competitor. Even negative comments about other women you know can signal this. If she's dismissive or critical of someone you've shown interest in, that's not necessarily cattiness. That's territorial behavior. She's subtly trying to diminish the competition because she wants to matter more. So, let's bring all of this together, because now you have a complete framework. A woman who's constantly thinking about you, even while appearing disinterested, will reveal herself through patterns you now know to recognize. She remembers details about your life that you forgot you mentioned. She behaves differently around you than she does with other people. She notices subtle changes in your appearance or mood. She asks about you when you're not there. She reacts strongly, sometimes negatively, to things you do. She finds reasons to be in your proximity. She watches your social media without engaging publicly. She might pull away suddenly as a form of self-protection. And she responds to the presence of other women with noticeable shifts in behavior. None of these signs in isolation prove anything. But when you start seeing multiple patterns overlapping, when the evidence stacks up across different behaviors and situations, that's when you know something real is happening beneath the surface. The mistake most men make is waiting for obvious, unmistakable signals. The hair flip, the giggle, the clear invitation. And while those signals do exist, they're actually not what happens with women who are deeply invested. Deep investment creates fear, and fear creates behavior that looks like the opposite of interest. Now you see the signals they were never meant to hide. But here's the thing. Recognizing these signs is only half the equation. Because knowing that she's thinking about you isn't the same as knowing how to make her act on those feelings. And this is exactly where most men get stuck. They see the signals, they recognize the interest, but they don't know what to do next to turn that hidden attraction into something real. That's exactly what I break down in another video that you need to watch right now. It's called How to Make a Woman Desire You, Even If She's Not Interested. And the reason you need to watch it is because it covers the other side of this equation. How to actually trigger desire in her mind. How to become the person she can't stop thinking about, even if right now she seems completely uninterested. The video you just watched shows you how to read the signs. That next video teaches you how to create them. And when you combine both skills, that's when everything changes. Click on it now. It's appearing on your screen. And I'll see you there.